Yeah, you're more than welcome to. Sure.
All right, cool.
It makes me nervous.
Oh, you're fine, Paul. No, Jay here is great because he helped me out get over 1,000 subscribers because we did a collab video together.
Mhm.
And after that collab video, that helped push me over 1,000. So I really appreciate it.
Hey.
Plus, he just got great taste in film. So, so we'll get started here. I'll do my little spiel, and we'll get rolling.
All right.
And welcome everyone to the spoiler room. Yes, we got a kind of a bit of an impromptu last minute. Hey, why don't we do this? Because I just had to talk to someone about this film. And the film is Mother, just came out, directed and written by Darren Aronofsky, and I've got a couple crew members in the room tonight. We've got a special guest crew member, been trying to get him in here for a while. First off, from Bloodbath and Beyond, he has graced us with his sweet, sweet pipes. It is Jay Bond. Hello, Jay.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Glad you could join us. And next to Jay is the Bowtie Man himself. He is back once again in the spoiler room working very hard to get that new Horror Fest going, and it is none other than Paul Salzer. Hey, Paul.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. Glad to have you. And tonight, yes, we are talking about Mother, a film, if you haven't been paying attention to your news feed, that has been divisive, been people hating it, people love it, and like anything from Darren Aronofsky. And according to IBM, the description is a couple's relationship is tested when uninvited guests arrive at their home, disrupting their tranquil existence. Boy, I think a lot of people would love it if it was just that simple.
Yep.
So Jay, we since you are our special guest here, we're going to start with you. So the credits roll on Mother, and what were your initial feelings with this film?
I generally had a micro panic attack, in the third act.
Really?
Yeah, I was in the theater. I mean, a fairly empty theater, but I was just kind of super claustrophobic. I'm claustrophobic in general, but my chest was tight, and I was just almost depressed, but trying to just kind of decompress and figure everything out. It's just a lot to take in for just going to the movies on a Saturday afternoon. I mean, I just got back now. That's I just got out of the theater.
Yeah, it's not exactly a light watch.
Definitely not. But it's worth saying to the people, because I've seen a lot of crazy headlines saying that it's a torture porn and stuff. It's worth noting that it's not uneasy to watch because of gore or anything like that.
No, there's plenty of other things to be uneasy about, but I couldn't get the whole torture porn thing because I was waiting for it. I'm watching it and I'm like, okay, you people must not watch the same films we do, because there's no torture porn in here. And Paul, how about you? What were your initial feelings when the credits started to roll?
Truthfully, it's oh, I love this song.
Oh my God.
I love that song. And then when it got to the end of the song and it was all silent, I was like, oh. And then I looked around and there was nobody in the theater with us. And I was like, wow. And then I actually then started to think about the movie again. And I was like, what did I just watch? I was like, I got to watch this again, because I don't think I quite understood everything about this film, because I scratched my head and it was just a mind blow. I can understand why there's an exclamation point at the end of this film, because that's what this film is. It's just one huge exclamation point, It's wow.
Well, did it surprise you as well as a film like this actually got wide release? Because usually something like this, you feel like it's going to get that LA, New York release and then go to VOD.
Right. That's kind of what I thought. My initial thought was almost it's not even a comparable movie, but similar to the treatment of Sunchoke.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you saw that one with Barbara Crampton, but it's a Sundance style movie that people just kind of do, and they hide it away a little bit. This is a Paramount Pictures wide release, and people are going to stumble into a movie like this and not know what they're getting into, especially not maybe if they aren't familiar with Aronofsky's stuff. Like, I mean, Requiem for a Dream and like Black Swan. It's like, I don't know. I think there's going to be a lot of misinterpretations of like everything. I guess like the whole movie is misinterpretation, different interpretation of things.
Well, they did the marketing was like the Crimson Peak marketing, where they were trying to make through the trailer a much more scarier film than what was actually presented to me, at least. And I think people that are going to watch it because they were interested in the trailer are going to be disappointed. I think the people that are going to watch it because they know what to expect are going to love the film.
Well, that third act is horrific, and it actually at the end, I will say I was kind of scared because of the whole. And yes, folks, this is the spoiler room. We will be spoiling the hell out of this movie over the course of the hour here. The apocalypse type of metaphor at the very end kind of spooked me, being a kid of the 80s, going, "Oh crap, we're talking about cleansing the earth with fire here."
Right, just like restart and rebuild, almost, right?
Right. And what I liked about this film, and Jay, I want to see if you got the impression of that, is as this film went along, it starts off almost feeling like he's making a statement about abuse of women, because she's in an abusive relationship, kind of, to where he's ignoring her and doesn't listen to anything she says. And then it goes into something completely different. Did you get that feeling?
I totally got that. I totally got that vibe. Like, it just seemed like she's giving her all. She's trying to, like, she's doing everything for him while he's sitting there trying to create something and basically just brushing her off in hopes that he can be greater than her. Or like, I guess he already assumes that he's greater, and he just doesn't care what she has to say. And it's just, even when like, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, yeah, even he just is indifferent to whatever her opinion is.
Right. But, and what's crazy about it is, like, the way that an abusive relationship would work is that he can be as negative, or maybe not even negative, but just like almost ignoring everything that she wants to do or say. And then she'll still run to his arms and give him a hug and kiss, and he'll say, "Everything's fine and I love you." And then she's content with that. But almost just like the movie, it's also that building resentment. Like, she slowly just starts to hate everything about what's happening. And it grows into, well, the explosion that happens at the end.
Yeah, that is one hell of an explosion. Paul, how about you? Did you get the feeling in the beginning it felt like that, just an abusive relationship type film, but then as it went on, you realized they were going for more?
I think, if thinking back on it, yes, that's what I would see. But actually, when I was watching it, I was trying to find something a little bit different. Like, there's like, wow, there must be a real reason why they're presenting it in this way. And so I was trying to read something deeper. And as a result, I actually was completely wrong at the end, because it was like, how people sometimes get into the habit of, this little piece fits into my theory, so that's why this happened. And then the next part was like, oh yeah, this one sort of fits, and now it fits now because I twisted it in my mind. And because of that, I think I wasn't looking at that message. And so to me, it never really came up until a little bit like in the middle, where it was like realizing that she was really doing a lot of things in the house, and she was being ignored and that sort of stuff. So yes, after watching it, but right at the beginning, no, I didn't see that. And it was because I was looking for something different.
And I think that's going to happen with a lot of people. I mean, there's so much to focus on in different ways that, like, it's almost like a blank canvas walking in, right? Like, there's not a lot of dialogue. The house is pretty bland. Even like the color palette, like everything just is muted, and you're supposed to interpret it however way you want. I mean, obviously, there's something that Darren had in mind, which I think most people will kind of pick up on. But there's all these little like subplots or sub symbolism kind of thrown around, and little different metaphors that, it's okay for you to twist things around in your head, because It's how you perceive it, right? Like you're Jennifer Lawrence's character. I mean, the whole movie. So you're trying to figure out like, what does this mean to you?
Well, we never really leave her side either.
Right.
Once she wakes up, it's all her. And you mentioned the claustrophobia, Jay. I want to see if Paul felt the same way, because with the camera angles and stuff that they do with her, you never actually get a huge, complete picture of how big this house is and just exactly the layout. It's always just a little bit of a mystery. Paul, did you get that claustrophobic as well?
Visually, yes, but I was sitting in the middle of the theater, and the sound system in the theater, it went in full stereo, and this movie, technically sound-wise, did create a huge space, because, and it was very atmospheric, because you'd sit in the theater, and then you would hear the floor creaking to the right of you, and then you would hear something to the left of you, and then this actual sound from the screen comes out in front of you. And to just hearing that, it was a great juxtaposition to the visuals. Yes, there were a lot of close-ups, a lot of strange angles. You know, you had this huge downward-looking angle, and then you would have the upward-looking angle, and then but with the sound, it just made it really, I think it threw me off. It kind of made me uneasy because of that.
Well, the sound design was really important, because I think it gave the house character and the feeling of age. Jay, how'd you feel about that sound design in here?
It was awesome. I think the absence of a soundtrack was key. Like, there's no score in the movie, and so like the way that, yeah, it's like a living, breathing house. I mean, they even reference that with, you know, the heart inside of the house. When she touches the walls, there's a heart. And so, yeah, while she's waking up in the middle of the night, hearing creaks or dishes shuffling or like all these little small things, you just feel like there's something bigger happening. And yeah, the sound design is awesome. And to experience it in a theater where you do have like the full surround sound was absolutely essential for this movie, I think.
Yeah, it played a big part in it, especially early on when it's just her and well, they just call him Mother and him, but Jennifer Lawrence's character and Javier, just those two. I think that sound design was so important to help establish where they live. And then we get Ed Harris showing up,
who is awesome but creepy.
Oh, wasn't there that creepy vibe, especially when he showed up just by himself? It's suddenly like, okay, what's going to happen?
Right.
You know, especially with people saying, oh, this is a torture porn film or whatever. I'm sitting here going, okay, something's creepy going to happen, and he's going to like go off and be in a basement, or she's going to go off and lock him in the basement, or someone's going in the basement.
Right.
But so in this film, folks, Jennifer Lawrence's character goes from just being a representation of females, I think, to something more, to possibly Mother Earth, and then religious side Mary. I think, Paul, would you say that Jennifer, her character, her representation changes during the film?
Oh, most definitely. It changes throughout. Like you said, you get this envision. Oh yeah, she's supposed to be the Earth Mother, Gaia. Then she's Mary, and then she could either be like something from Rosemary, you know, from Rosemary's Baby, that sort of stuff. You know, all these little things that throw you off, and you're like, yeah, no, that's what she is, you know. And I don't know, it's so bizarre.
Would you say, Jay, bizarre is a good term?
I think bizarre is an excellent term. Yeah, it's just like, it's definitely an experience, this movie, to say the least.
Oh, go ahead.
And then we also have like Michelle Pfeiffer, right? So we have her come in as Ed Harris's better half. And better half, yeah. I'm using that loosely. And she is just a little nightmare in herself, to be honest.
She was like a representation almost of I'm not sure what, because in the beginning she's being abusive as well. I mean, you really feel bad for Jennifer Lawrence's character in the beginning, because you have Pfeiffer's woman character who's saying, "Oh, you didn't want children, or did you?" Or like, you should really start now, have sex now. I mean, was Michelle Pfeiffer's character supposed to be maybe a sin like lust?
What I was thinking that as well. But what I think it also could be. And so I'm not 100 on this, but okay. So we have like the Mother Earth, which would be Jennifer Lawrence.
Right.
We have the creator, who in turn is the creator. So God,
right.
A lot of low angle shots of him from below. And then I would bet that they would be Adam and Eve, but like older, like, so like they've experienced this. And I think that the house itself is the world. And it's kind of, as things progress, you know, more and more people inhabit the house. So inhabit the world. Mother Nature has one view of it. She's trying to tidy everything up. It already existed before her because the creator created it, the house, I guess, in general. And then she's just trying to maintain the household, make sure everything's good. And as more and more people inhabit the house, it just gets destroyed. And there's wars, and it's just crumbling. And I think that's kind of what it is, because we have, like they're actively promoting, you know, they want Jennifer Lawrence to kind of create, they want babies, they want to populate this house. And then we've got like the Cain and Abel situation with their kids. And so there's just a lot going on. And I think like the religious aspect, I think, is huge for this movie. And I think that's where a lot of people are going to find like the general overarching kind of like the basic, well, is not even basic, but just like, that's probably going to be the most common interpretation of this film. And then you have like the subplots with fame and different things like that. But that's how I kind of took it. And it was just kind of a lot, because once you start thinking on that path, you're just like, look at her Mother Earth trying her damnedest to just clean up everybody, to make sure like the world is good. And then like the world eventually has to just die.
Yeah, I don't think I said, "Oh, damn," as much as I did out loud in a movie theater as I did while watching this film, because it was me getting it. You know, you'd have those moments where I'm like, oh,
that's what that is.
Oh, you know, and she gets, especially when more people come in the house, this whole family. Paul, what'd you think of this whole family and maybe what they represented, like Ed Harris's character and at least Michelle Pfeiffer's character? Do you think that it was maybe sins?
Actually, I looked at it more like what Jay did, as Adam and Eve, simply because their name is man and woman.
That's true. Yeah.
And the brothers, the whole Cain and Abel parallel was just like, oh yeah, that is a good way to interpret them. And the whole fact of why Michelle Pfeiffer was the way she was is kind of like, you know, oh well, you know, she lets the sin into the world by eating the apple and so forth. So yeah, I agree with Jay in there. That's how I envisioned what they represented. But when they first introduced Ed, though, I was looking at it more as more of a realistic, like you thought, where this guy was, this guy is going to flip, or you know, this is a home invasion story. You know,
yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
I had that as well too.
But the moment once the brothers started fighting, it was like, oh wow, this is a biblical theme movie. And then later on, it was like, well, maybe not a biblical theme movie. Maybe it's something different. So yeah, I kept switching back and forth. But to me, that's how I viewed the Michelle Pfeiffer and the Ed Harris character as being Adam and Eve. Yeah.
And I'm glad you guys brought it up, because I couldn't quite put my finger on what those two were representing at first. I'm like, I know I should get this. I was getting a lot of things, and I got a lot of things during the film, but I'm like, what is it? Now you guys mention it, poof, it fits right in. Yeah,
I think it's a little tough. I think like I didn't quite understand the representation of Adam being sick like consistently sick. So I'm not too sure where all that comes into play, or even like the wound on his back, which they alluded to. So I'm not well versed in religion. I haven't read the Bible. I don't really know if that kind of fits into it.
Well, if you take it from the standpoint of if he is truly Adam, that is basically, so Eve was created from the rib of Adam.
Yes,
Right.
and now it's clicking for sure. Yeah, it was
So
on
it would have
his
come from
back.
her. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the creator would have created her.
Yep.
We don't see him creating her, but possibly he created the man too.
Right. And they are roughly the same age. And,
Yep.
Jennifer Lawrence is the younger one.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Which they point out quite a bit.
and like, we even know that, I mean, this isn't his first rodeo because he would have had a different life before Jennifer Lawrence came to be, which would be the symbolism with like, basically the love, the
Right.
crystal.
Yeah, I love the significance of the crystal.
Yeah.
How that was supposed to be like that's his focus. He's like, yes, this is going to be at this time.
There was about his coughing. There was an earlier thought that I had right at the beginning. When before Michelle Pfeiffer's character was introduced, and I was thinking maybe this guy was had something to do with the fire, because right at the beginning you see this fire, and I thought, oh, maybe these guys are all spirits, and he was caught up in the fire, and the reason why he's coughing is because he died of smoke inhalation of the house. And then they, how the story just keeps piling up all these like weird things to make you think, well, maybe it means this. And then, so it keeps evolving and changing your thoughts about what everything is. And I think even ultimately at the end, you can still add more things to it and you'd still be correct.
Right.
know?
Everybody's interpretation, just kind of builds and layers on itself. And, every interpretation can be correct.
Mm-hmm.
That's what this film is all about.
Yeah, it is. It is meant to be interpreted. He's presenting ideas and thoughts, and what you get out of it is, whatever you get out of it. It doesn't feel like, hey, this is what you're supposed to think. No, for me, I was along the lines with Paul at the beginning too, as like the burnt house, and that, okay, maybe she's trapped in a hell. That's why you got fire outside of, their grassy area. Maybe this is her hell because she was burnt up in the building.
And you know what? In some sense, it is, right?
Yeah.
And so like it all kind of works out. And like even with the coughing, like you were mentioning, Paul, it's like maybe Adam and Eve were there for the first iteration of this house because the house existed and then it burnt down. And that's why he has like the remnants of the past love, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is his second shot. He's trying it all over again. So maybe Adam was there, and that's why they're aged, because they have lived through it before.
Oh, that's true. Yeah,
Right.
I like that.
And perhaps that's their obsession with going in, because like they consistently wanted to see the last remains, right, of the previous world, is what that crystal would have been, or his passion or drive or whatever we'll call it. But they were so obsessed with it because they probably had a run-in with it before, as they were part of that past life. So it's precious to them as well. But then in the same sense, they broke it. And maybe that was kind of, I don't know. Maybe it's just like, okay, this is like how we're going to spark you to create something better now. And which in turn it did.
Well, it could be if we're going that route, that crystal could be the representation of the apple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Since Michelle was the one that broke it.
Michelle's the one that broke it, and they get cast out.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, get out of my house.
Yeah.
And yet they're always trying to get back in, and they manage to work their way back in over the course of the film, one way or the other, because they're playing off of the creator's sympathy, who may have sympathy because he created these people. Wow.
Yeah, I know. As you continue to talk, it's just like, oh shit. Like before getting on here, I actually sat down and recorded what I thought was going to be a 6-minute video ended up being 33 minutes.
Oh, wow.
And it's just like, as I kept going, and it just kept getting better as I kept talking about it. It's like, oh, I kind of understand what's happening. Maybe.
Well, and then later on, I mean, you think it's going to jump back a little bit. He plays with expectations, especially for us folks who watch a lot of horror. Because, Paul, when the son came back, did you think for sure, okay, wait, now here's where we're going to get into, he's going to do something really bad to her after he after he practically killed his brother with the door handle. The brother comes back to the house when she's by herself, and
yeah,
did you get that impression?
To hide the evidence, yeah. That this was, oh no, this is the home invasion story part.
Yeah. Yeah, totally thought there was gonna be some rapey scenes, to be honest. Like, I thought that's where they were leading, just leaving her alone.
It in a way, I was pleasantly surprised, because I hate those type of scenes. But it surprised me, because I was like, okay, here we go. Here he's going to do something mean to her, and he comes back for his wallet. And he leaves.
Yeah. That was pretty shocking, to be honest.
It was. I'm like, oh, come on, showdown of some kind? No, wait, no, we're not.
We were baited out.
We were baited out. So we've got the end now. The metaphor here. We've kind of established, yes, this house is the world. She's Mother Nature, or Mary later on, but. What did you think of Jennifer Lawrence's performance? We'll dig out of here the heavy stuff for a little bit and just think of her performance as well as everyone else, Jay, in here, because I know some people have been critical about her in this movie.
I thought it was great, especially considering that she doesn't have a lot of dialogue, and the camera's in her face like 100% of the time, or over her shoulder, so it's like super close to her. It would have been awkward to act how she did, but it's such like it was way more subtle than I've seen her in everything else. And even her regular quirky day-to-day life, because she's kind of a little rambunctious person. And so to see her almost like completely silent, and you just kind of have to read her face. And in the sense, and in that sense, you know exactly what she's thinking. Like there was never a moment that you didn't know how she felt about the situations that were happening. So I think she did a killer job.
I agree on that. Paul, how about you? Do you think Jennifer Lawrence did a decent job in this film?
Her performance grew on me as it went along. At first, I was disappointed, because I had expected her to be a little bit more. It seemed like her performance was slightly robotic, and then I thought, well, maybe this is what she was supposed to do. And this is to throw us off a little bit. Maybe she's a metaphor about something, and so that's why she had to act it this way. And then as she progressed through the movie, and she had much heavier scenes, that was like, oh yeah, this is the Jennifer Lawrence that I expected to see. And she pulled off some very emotional scenes. And from that point on, I was okay. But when I first started out, it felt very robotic, and I was thinking, well, if she's going to be this way, I can understand what everyone was thinking. And it is possible that maybe that's what people were doing, was they were judging her based on the beginning of her performance and not really sitting there and giving her a chance.
They could have been more pissed off by the end of the film. They forgot about her performance.
Yeah.
I thought she did great in here as well. I think this is, even though we saw her as the white trash lady in American Hustle, I actually think this is her most mature role to date. And not just because of the scene later on in the third act where she ends up getting her shirt ripped off either, or some of the other subject matter that ends up happening, or her wardrobe necessarily, but I never felt that was gratuitous either. There is violence in here, especially in this third act. Jay, did you ever feel like it was gratuitous? The scene where she gets, she gets beat up, and
no, I think it was kind of necessary, because it was just kind of like an onslaught of attacks that, I can see how it could be gratuitous, but I don't think it went too far. I think they kept it on long enough to make you feel uncomfortable and make you feel like, holy shit. Like, shit's going down right now. And we need this guy to step up and save her.
Right. Yeah, this third act from when for me the aha moment I will say in this movie where I knew exactly where he was going to eventually go with the film, and I was partly right, was when he was trying to write and she said she was pregnant, and suddenly he was inspired in writing his words, and then he finished the document, which we never really see. And he goes, "Hey, here you go." And she thinks it's beautiful. And suddenly his publicist calls and says, "Hey, it's great. We've already printed it." And I'm like sitting there going, "What?" And Jennifer was going, "What?"
You jerk. So at first, you kind of think that, oh, maybe he's turned a new leaf. He's really, come to love his wife again. But it's like, well, no, he had already shared that with everyone else, and she's the last person to find out.
Yeah, exactly.
It's such a slight on his part. Yeah.
Which continues the whole theme of him being truly oblivious to her actual needs.
Yes.
Which is an interesting statement you're going to make about God not caring about Earth.
Yep.
I mean, if you're going to get down to brass tacks, that's the impression I got with it, was he made it. Now she's just kind of there and for his support only. And that never really changes. Even when it comes to the baby, because this third act, folks, this scene with the baby is probably what's pissing everybody off.
Definitely.
Because he's developed this cult following. And I think we all got the impression there was the implication of religion as a cult.
Yes.
Am I off on it, Paul? Did you get that?
Actually, no, I didn't.
No,
I didn't. I took it as a big, large metaphor, and I thought it was now people are going to hate me for this, but how is this any different than saying that God basically sacrificed his son so that the people can get past their sins? How different is that? So they visualized it and they showed the people, and you go to church, you go to mass, and you eat communion, and you eat the body of Christ, right? So why is this any different? And so it was like, it's upsetting to have people think of that as being, oh, this is cultish. This is showing a negative light. It's like, no, it's showing a different light on the same stuff. So it's like I said, people are going to hate me for saying it the way I did. But no, that's my belief. That's how I felt when I saw this. It was like, wow, this is powerful. This is a visual metaphor showing it, and it was like, oh my goodness, wow.
Well, I think it's kind of the same as well, though, right? Like, so you have like the visual representation and then the underlying kind of thought process. I think it's very similar, and it lines up a lot. Like, I totally got like, it was his followers and he'll do anything, and he's just trying to, like, he'll never get rid of them. He doesn't want to. That's not, even if it's in the best interest of the world or Mother Nature. It's like, no, I just want to gather as many people to follow me and to admire me, even if somebody admires me much more than the masses can ever. Is I'm just going to still shun this person and shut her out. And you know what? I'd rather just have just this mass following.
Yeah, it played off, giving the impression that, God wrote the words so he could get more people, regardless of what he already had and created. He had that drive to just have more people, and then more people show up at the house, and she's just like, what the hell, get the hell out of my house. And she's still even trying to clean up a little, or protect them with the whole thing with the sink. Get off the sink, and people kept hopping on the sink, and she's just like, that's not braced yet, and like warning them, yet they still do it. Which, you got water in there. Are we talking flood? Are we talking...
Oh my goodness, that's great.
It just popped into my head now. It's probably way off, but Are we talking Noah's flood here with the sink?
It could be. It could be.
Aronofsky did do Noah, right?
Yeah, he did.
He
So-
did do Noah.
Yes, he did.
Which frustrated people with the rock monsters, apparently. But as
Yeah,
this
I'm
film-
not too sure, but like that was definitely a huge breaking point. Like you could feel the tension,
Mhm.
just like at that moment, you could just feel the fury in Jennifer Lawrence's character when that pipe burst.
Well, you could feel it throughout because he sets it up so well. Not only do we get the close-up shots constantly of her, but since we're not leaving her, you're feeling her frustration because we've all had uninvited guests
Right.
or people who won't leave when you're trying to drop a subtle hint, you know,
Or even straight up saying, please get out of my house.
right?
It's like, nah, you know what? I'm not going to leave. And I'm going to bring my friends over.
Mhm.
I just want everybody gone, and I just need to go back to zero and just chill. And there was a no chill zone, that's for sure.
Well, especially when you have one of the more humorous parts, and I was trying to figure out the significance of it. And now I'm thinking of it, maybe it was trying to represent people who think they have good intentions about fixing the earth, but they're doing it wrong. The paint comment is hilarious.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
yeah. They're
painting
the
my
active.
house.
Yeah, I think they were like the slacktivists almost, like
Mhm.
people who are just like, yeah, I'm gonna do the bare minimum to try and help. I'm not gonna stop everyone else from ruining everything, but if I can patch something up in the meantime, maybe I'll look like the good guy.
Yeah, that's what I was getting when they represented it first. And again, it's stuff that doesn't hit you exactly right away, but then you start thinking about it going, yeah, those are the slacktivists, I think, or the people that think they're doing their little part, but they're helping. Oh boy,
Right.
I'm posting on Facebook, hashtag help them. Not
Right.
doing
Yeah.
anything else, but so
Yeah.
I think he's picking on everyone, don't you?
I think at like when you break it down and like, I mean, if we went frame by frame through that house, I'm sure we could isolate certain people and say, you know what they're doing specifically in this moment could represent like this whole part of society.
Mm-hmm.
And especially when there's like the riot gear against like the other side of the house.
Yeah. Oh, in that third act when we started getting into the warfare stuff, Paul, what do you think? Did you think he was kind of alluding to the just the state of affairs that we have going on today?
Well, because we can dual think this through. If we went through the whole biblical thing, yes, it would say that yes, it's man, war, and all the stuff that you would see in that. But also too, if you wanted to take it and not look at it as a biblical thing and look at it as a supernatural type story, maybe this was hell, and so then it's to get you to think, well, the people that think that this story is a metaphor of hell, that she is in hell, he's the devil, not God, and then her baby, the Rosemary baby thing again, maybe she's having the Antichrist and not Christ. So the people, the warring and all that stuff could have been, because it looked like, well, this could be a representation of hell, people, souls being locked away in cages. All of a sudden you had these head demons running around that were controlling other demons and so forth. You could blow your mind just thinking of all these different little things. I mean,
Holy crap. I got kind of the impression at first of the devil, but now that you're mentioning it, Jay, would you say you could go just exactly with that interpretation as well?
I could definitely, but even saying that, I spun it again.
Awesome.
Well, not spun it again, but I mean,
Right.
taking those head figures, those are bishops, those are priests.
Nice.
So like you go with the God thing still. I mean, I think I don't know what the cages would represent in that aspect, but I mean, I think that it depends on how you look at it, right?
It could be dogma,
Mhm.
Right.
religious dogma. Yeah.
It could be religious dogma, and the whole thing is things escalate and they're eating the baby. Yes, folks, that's right. They are eating the body of the child from her. So yes, you gain what reputation you have. They turn on her, the one who created and presented it. Suddenly we have these people who have been following, quote unquote, this religion, this cult, this fame of this guy. They've suddenly turned on it and pretty much going against what started it. Jay, what'd you think of that with them when they were beating it up? Do you think he's stating about how people don't get their own religion?
It could very well be. I didn't really pick up too much on that aspect, but I mean, thinking about it, it could very well. I think it was just like kind of it came to a head, and this is just like like a brunt attack. It's like, okay, now we understand what it is. We just don't give a shit anymore, and we don't want somebody trying to tell us what to do. We're gonna do what we want to do. And so, like, I don't know. I think you're probably more in line with what Aronofsky was probably thinking, but you could never quite understand.
Who knows? I'm still trying to figure out Black Swan. What are you talking about? There's a whole lot in Black Swan that I still chew over. Paul, how about you? What did you think of the significance of the scene where the people who have taken the body or whatever, and she's just yelling at them, and they just turn on her and are brutal, ripping clothes and punching her and calling her the worst names?
Yes. Oh my goodness. Yes. I looked at it as being kind of again a metaphor of our modern times, because it seemed like what they were doing was they were taking the poet, the creator's words, and they were interpreting it their way. Because if you see throughout the scenes prior to that scene, they were talking with different people, and then they were saying things that was like, oh, he said in this that we're supposed to share and we're supposed to do this, and it seemed like, well, that was just a one-page poem. They're reading into it a lot more than I would have expected them to, and to me, that's kind of like, okay, let's take that, put it into the whole religious context and say people are taking a look at the Bible and interpreting it their way. And because of that, they're able to do whatever it is that they want to do. And as a result, Mother Earth, our planet, is being harmed in the process. So that's how I interpreted it.
I think you're spot on with that.
Yeah, I would say too. That is hopefully what I think that's a really,
unless we are just the biggest dickheads ever, and it's no, it's just for face value. There's no symbolism in this movie.
Yeah,
none whatsoever.
I wouldn't put it past Aronofsky to just
stir up some shit.
Yeah, he went on some bender one night, wrote the script, and said, "Eat this, suckers."
It was only written in 5 days.
Oh. Was it really?
Yeah, and
wow.
Yeah. So essentially, when Jennifer Lawrence came on, he didn't even have a script, and she said yes.
Wow.
He had some ideas, and she said, like, okay. Like, she didn't know how to be the character. She mulled it over for a long time. She thought she was going to get fired because she couldn't come up with the character, and he didn't seem impressed when they did readings and rehearsals and stuff. And I'm not 100%, but I believe that Aronofsky went and shot like a rough version of this movie before Jennifer Lawrence came and redid the whole movie, like what we saw.
Wow.
But it was definitely written in 5 days, and there wasn't a script when people signed on for it.
It's actually a story about a dog and a cat that didn't like each other. That's what it's really about.
They're living together, mass hysteria.
It's just like the story of bad roommates. He didn't do the dishes. It's like that's the subtext. The people are like the building resentment, and that's all they stand for. People are gonna spin it in whichever way they want it and whatever they're going through. Well, I think but I don't know. I think the religious subtext is still going to be pretty consistent, though.
Yeah.
Well,
But I'm really interested to hear other people's thoughts for sure. Like this is the kind of movie that I want to see on Film Theory, if you're familiar with that, or like even like just seeing like shot by shots or like scene breakdowns. I'd love to see what everybody else thinks, or at least hear differing opinions, because even talking for the last little bit with you guys, I mean, there are things that I didn't think of. And now rewatching it, I'm sure that there'll be a flood of more information that I kind of dig out from all of this, from the chaos of the last half of the movie.
Yeah. Well, I will. I was gonna say that I will glad they changed the title, because I just looked up a little trivia on this.
Yeah.
And originally, the original title was Day 6.
Ooh.
Okay, so that kind of almost confirms the religious aspect.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I'm glad they labeled it Mother. And apparently, and that's what I was wondering, because I was watching this going, wow, this really has a weird, not a weird, but an interesting visual aesthetic. He shot this using 16 millimeter film.
Oh yeah. So like I noticed like the grain, especially there's a few scenes when she was kind of getting her medicine. When they were close up of her hands, like that's when I really noticed it.
Yeah, what'd you think about the significance of the medicine?
I couldn't figure that out, to be honest.
Good, I don't feel so bad.
I was trying to piece it together, but I mean, with everything else going on, it's, you know, I'm looking all at that. It's like, oh, I'll come back to that one, you know. I couldn't understand. I think it was no. I got nothing.
Yeah. I got nothing either. Paul, what about you? That's one of the only symbolism things I'm sitting there going, what is that?
The only thing I could think of it was a tie back to when she was spackling the walls. Mm-hmm. She had put some kind of powder into the putty, which turned it to a yellowish color. Right. And it was like, and it was, at first I thought, wow, is she using the same stuff? Is she? Mm-hmm. Or maybe it's just saffron or something. I don't know. She wants to spice up the water because it's all crappy in that.
I'm not sure at all.
But you know, the whole symbolism of she's repairing the old world, you know, and this is the tie-in, the whole, and that ties it in because she's also repairing herself on the inside, because the only time she ever did that was when she felt sick.
Right.
So
yeah, that is her repair. And I thought it's interesting because you talk about the religious thing further and how he's the creator and God, yet she throws in there, I did all this restoration myself.
Yes.
Like, you know, like all he did was poof, and I had to do everything else. This does not paint the creator in a lot of light, but
no,
a great light. That's the one thing throughout is I'm like sitting here going, man, even at the very end, there's really no, I mean, she nukes the place with the hidden fire, hidden oil drum, which not quite sure is significance of that. Maybe talking about fossil fuels.
Oh yes. Yeah. I don't know.
Well, because it was deep inside the house, right? So
yeah,
you know, but
there's your sin though. There's your man's sin was hidden.
Yeah. There you go.
She released it like Pandora's box and then lit it on fire.
Right, like it could very well be that, because I mean he would have known that it existed because that's why it was covered up, and that's probably what caused the initial explosion. And so he's trying to patch things up on his second time around, and hiding that, and like, no, there's no way that we have to reset again. Like this is how it's gonna be. And she's like, nah, we're gonna change things again.
Oh, now I'm spinning it into a sci-fi story where he's just a time traveler, and he uses the time crystals.
Oh God!
Oh God! Don't take it on another level, no. and him cutting her heart out, holy crap, and turning it into the stone. The thing is, him doing that at the end, the one thing that I caught me as a surprise is there's no redemption or endearing quality to the creator at the end of this film. He's still an ass.
Right. And you know that he's about to do exactly what he's done twice now. Again.
Right.
So it's like just rinse and repeat and try again without learning.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's kind of a big thing.
Yeah, he hasn't learned a thing. He's the one that just is still clueless and is trying, because, you know, that definition of insanity, keep doing the same thing, you're expecting different results, but so maybe he's implying that he's crazy.
But if you take that into the whole religious context again, it's like the you know, God is not supposed to be the one that makes the changes. He can, right, but he's not supposed to. The people that are supposed to are the people that are, you know, living in the house essentially. Mm-hmm. And so they're the ones that have to change. You know, even then he wasn't blaming the people. He was telling her to forgive the people. You know, like, right, oh, you have to forgive them. Well, like, no, you don't.
Well, and the explosion at the end in the house, I almost took as, if you didn't want to go religious route, you could go scientific route and talk about the Big Bang.
Yeah.
Is
the starting of the universe again, yeah.
The sparking of the universe. So there's so many directions with this film, and I think we're going to wrap it up here for the night, because as you think about this film, there's more and more places you could go with it. But I can see why people are hating it. And just my final thought, and I'll get your guys's, is I'm actually kind of smiling when I see people either hated it or loved it, because I don't think with all the monotony we've had in Hollywood wide release films, it's exciting either way to see people have such an emotional reaction to a film.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, I'm sick of just like the Transformers and the rehashing of reboots and just bringing all these 80s movies to life again. It's like, it's nice to have like something that's just going to freak people out, or maybe not freak people out, but at least, you know, generate conversation. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be a movie that we're going to be talking about for a long time. And just even seeing the different sides in articles scrolling through Facebook. And that's exactly like how I even knew about this movie. I found out about it on Monday, and that was, I never had heard of it. And then yesterday when I saw like just people saying, you need to see this, including your picture, Mark, I was like, well, I'm going today. Like I don't go to matinees. I don't go to movies by myself. This is the first time since 2003. And I'm just like, I have to. It just makes sense. And getting the wide release and allowing that opportunity for a lot of people to experience it in a theater with that awesome surround sound that the film benefits from, like, it's great. And I hope that Paramount and other big studios continue to take risks like this, because even having J-Law in here, like, she's a huge star. And to have her doing something that's like art house like this and giving it a wide release is insane to me. It kind of reminds me of like Antichrist, when you got Willem Dafoe, and it's like that movie. I mean, that didn't get a wide release, but it's almost comparable, where you have like a larger person. I mean, I would say that Jennifer Lawrence is a bigger star than Willem Dafoe, but it's kind of the same thing. You take a massive star and put them in something that they should never be associated with, and it's great. I mean, well, she's been in what's that other one?
She was in American Hustle.
The Girl Next Door.
A Girl Next Door, but this, you don't picture her, because everybody's still. She's trying to shake that stink of, well, not the stink, but the Katniss.
Katniss,
smell. She's trying to shake off the Katniss smell with the roles that she's trying to take, because unfortunately they get, if you're in a big popular film like that, in a role like that, you kind of get pigeonholed, the Mark Hamill effect, if you will. Right. Kristen Stewart for ages. That's why I after Twilight, she really wasn't in any big wide release films for a while. I mean, a couple, but she mostly did indie stuff, and still is, because, and I think that's where she's strongest at anyway, because Twilight, people look at her and go, oh, it's Belle,
Yeah,
the girl
exactly.
from Twilight, and she's like, "No, I'm not."
I think Jennifer Lawrence is coming into her own, and this is going to really help it. And like there was talks, like I watched like a little Vice interview with her, and she was talking about how she wanted to be a film director a couple years ago, and now she's like, well, this opened up my world to acting, because it was like I said, she was hesitant about her role in this.
Right.
She didn't understand the character, and then once she got it, she's just like, whoa, so I can do way different things.
Mhm.
And I think that she's gonna put the directing on the back burner and continue, seeking out more interesting directors where she can create a character herself, as opposed to being, handed the stereotypical things that she's been in.
Yeah, hopefully it opens up more doors, because I think she's very talented, and you never like see talented folks end up, in pigeonholed like that and end up being in the same role all the time. Paul, what about you and the acting overall, and just your feelings with this film?
It like I said originally, it grew on me. As the story progressed, it got better and better, and as I sort of lost the ability to guess what was going to happen, or why everything was really truly happening, I got to enjoy it a lot more. It became a fun movie for me, and I'm just very happy that this will probably be a standalone movie. I mean, I don't see it being a tie-in. I don't see it being a sequel or a prequel. So this is going to be a movie that can stand alone, and we can talk about it, and hopefully people will get some ideas and be inspired by the film, So that's my hope.
Yep. We can only hope.
You can only hope. And if nothing else, this is a film that's probably going to be studied in many a film class and many on how to do representation in a film. So, yeah, and I just go down real quick now. We'll wrap it up here. Just want to get your final, just a yes or no. Well, you can elaborate a bit. Is this, though, a good movie or a bad movie? Paul, good movie or bad movie?
Good movie! Exclamation point.
Well played.
With a caveat.
Yes.
I think it's an excellent movie. I think it's going to be seen from both sides, but I personally enjoyed it.
Awesome. And I'm the same way. I can see where people's criticism coming in, but at the same time, I think it's a brilliant film. I think this is a film that reminds people that movies can be art,
Yep.
and not just rehashes and remakes and such. And so, yeah, it'll be interesting to see where this film stands in 5 or 10 years. I think this one will still stick out more than, your latest Transformers sequel. So
For sure.
With that in mind, we're going to go down the line really quick. This is where people can pimp themselves. Jay, we appreciate you joining us at last minute into the spoiler room. Where can they find you at when you're not around here?
You can find me on Bloodbath and Beyond, a YouTube channel where we review horror movies from zero budget to multi-million-dollar wide releases. Just me and my buddies having a couple of drinks and talking. So check it out on YouTube.
Awesome channel, always growing in subscribers, and well-deserved. It's always good to see indie cinema represented on YouTube amongst all the people looking at just the latest Bay film.
Thanks.
And Paul, where can they find you at?
My latest project is the Northeast Wisconsin Horror Film Festival. It is a film festival that really does focus on independent horror films, and it'll be the second weekend of October 14th through the 15th. And for a very, very low price, you can watch up to 42 films that are all horror based and all different types of horror too. So, and if you want to learn more about the Northeast Wisconsin Horror Film Festival, just go to newhorrorfest.com.
Set right here in the middle of Wisco, the great state of Wisconsin. Yes, you can catch links for these fine gentlemen's stuff and more on specialmarkproductions.com. I thank you guys for joining us for this discussion. Hope this gave you a little light and maybe a little more understanding of Mother and make you want to go see it. Films like this need some support because we don't get enough thinking films out there. They don't have to all be thinking, but it'd still be nice once in a while. And it's glad that films like this are out there to spark conversation like we had here. So that'll do it for us tonight. And I'll say goodnight, gentlemen.
Good night, gentlemen.
Take care, guys.